In 2026, airplanes are doing far more than carrying people from one city to another. They are filtering the air you breathe, reading the sky for invisible danger, and quietly solving problems most passengers never think about. And that is exactly what makes aviation so fascinating. Because the biggest surprise is not that planes are advanced. It is how many of their smartest features are hidden in plain sight. So, if you think you already know how airplanes work, give me a few minutes. By the end of this countdown, one simple flight may look completely different to you. Let's start with number 10. Number 10. The cabin air is cleaner than most people expect. That sounds impossible, especially inside a closed tube at 35,000 feet. But modern airliners are designed to deliver the equivalent of 0.55 pounds of fresh air per minute for every person on board. On top of that, most commercial jets recirculate air through HEPA filters, the same kind of filtration standard used to trap 99.97% of particles. So the air is constantly moving, constantly refreshed, and constantly cleaned. Even more surprising, cabin air quality events are rare, with the FAA reporting fewer than 33 per million departures. Not perfect, but far safer than many imagine. Number 9. Those tiny wingtips can save a huge amount of fuel. They are called winglets, and they exist for one reason: to reduce drag. When a wing pushes through the air, it creates swirling vortices at the tips, and those vortices waste energy. Winglets help tame that lost energy, which means the airplane needs less fuel to do the same job. NASA flight tests on a Boeing 707 type airliner showed about a 6.5% reduction in fuel use. That may sound small. It is not. Over time, on thousands of flights, that tiny curve at the wingtip can save massive amounts of money, fuel, and emissions. Small change, big impact. Number 8. Sustainable aviation fuel is growing, but it is still only a tiny part of the picture. In 2025, SAF reached about 0.6% of total airline fuel use, which was double the year before. That sounds encouraging, and it is. But it also shows how far aviation still has to go. Global production in 2025 was roughly 2 million tons, while net zero targets would need something closer to 500 million tons by 2050. So yes, the future is arriving, just not evenly. Every new SAF delivery matters because each batch proves the industry can slowly shift away from traditional fuel without stopping the world from flying. Number 7. Artificial intelligence is now helping airplanes dodge contrails. Most people think of climate impact in terms of carbon emissions alone, but contrails can also warm the atmosphere when they linger. Some of the most effective reductions in aviation's climate footprint may come from avoiding those contrail-forming regions in the first place. That is where AI enters the story. It can predict where conditions are most likely to create persistent contrails, then guide flight planning around them. In one large-scale campaign, eligible flights adjusted their routes and prevented more than 4 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent per flight, on average. That is a shocking idea. Sometimes the smartest way to fly cleaner is to fly a little differently. Number 6. Streaming at 38,000 feet is becoming normal. Not long ago, airplane Wi-Fi meant slow pages, dropped calls, and endless frustration. But now, high-speed satellite internet is changing the cabin experience fast. In late 2025, major airlines began announcing Starlink-enabled fleets, with speeds advertised up to 150 to 450 megabits per second. By 2026, first flights were already taking off with that kind of connection on board. That means passengers can work, stream, video call, and browse with a confidence that once belonged only to home internet. It is a huge shift in how people experience flying. The cabin is no longer just a place to wait. It is becoming a place to stay connected. Number 5. A single-aisle airplane is quietly taking over routes that used to belong to much bigger jets. The Airbus A221XLR is a perfect example. It is a narrow-body aircraft, but it has the range to fly much farther than older single-aisle planes. That changes everything. Airlines can now serve long routes with fewer seats, lower operating costs, and more flexibility. In 2026, deliveries to major carriers showed just how real this shift has become. A plane like this can connect city pairs that were once the domain of wide-body aircraft. And for passengers, that means more nonstop choices. The future of long-haul travel may look smaller on the outside, but it is stretching farther than ever before. Number 4. New aircraft can report where they are every minute if something goes wrong. That sounds like something from a movie, but it is a real safety concept. Under global tracking standards, planes already report their position routinely. And in an emergency, they can send autonomous location updates at least once per minute. Even if the electrical system fails, the aircraft is designed to keep transmitting. That matters because modern aviation depends on knowing exactly where a plane is, especially during a crisis. Losing that trail used to create terrifying uncertainty. Now, technology is closing those gaps. It is a quiet improvement, but in aviation, quiet often means safer. Number 3. One of the biggest modern threats to flight safety is not mechanical at all. It is GPS trickery. Airlines and regulators have been warning more seriously about GNSS interference, including spoofing and jamming, especially near conflict zones. That means a plane's navigation signals can be disrupted or falsified. And that is unsettling because the danger is invisible. The aircraft may not look damaged, nothing may seem broken. Yet the data it receives can be wrong. That is why aviation is investing so much effort into backup systems, layered navigation, and global coordination. In the modern sky, protecting the signal is just as important as protecting the engine. Number 2. The sky is getting bumpier. Not everywhere and not every day, but the trend is real. A study published in Geophysical Research Letters found that severe or greater clear air turbulence over the North Atlantic increased 55% from 1979 to 2020. That is a huge jump. And the scariest part is that clear air turbulence is often invisible. No clouds, no obvious warning, just sudden shaking. That is why seatbelt signs are becoming less like a suggestion and more like constant insurance. For passengers, it can feel alarming. For aviation, it is a reminder that the atmosphere itself is changing, and pilots are adapting flight planning to match. Number 1. The odds of dying in a commercial airline accident are almost hard to believe. IATA's long-term safety data shows the fatality risk per million sectors falling to 0.06 in 2024, down from 0.69 in 2005. That is already remarkable, but the number gets even more surreal when translated into everyday terms. IATA says that, on average, a person would need to fly for about 49,246 years to experience one fatal accident. Think about that for a second. Flying still feels dramatic. Takeoff still feels powerful. Turbulence still grabs your attention. But the data tells a different story. Commercial aviation is one of the safest things people do regularly. And that is the real wonder of airplanes in 2026. They are not just machines that fly. They are machines that breathe, think, adapt, filter, predict, and protect. The most familiar thing in the sky is still full of hidden complexity. So the next time you board a flight, remember this. The cabin air is engineered, the wings are saving fuel, the navigation is watching for interference, and the odds are far better than your instincts might suggest. Comment which fact surprised you most.